Okay, so here we are, and it's 11:12, which meant I hit the recording at 11:11, I think. So, so good. All right, so let's just take a moment to get centered. I know that this is not a spiritual class. This is a grounded 3D class. However, I find that just doing these little mindfulness practices make everything much better. So we're just gonna take a moment or two. So you can close your eyes, and this is for you guys live and anyone else who watches later. Close your eyes. Deepen your breathing. Just notice what your lungs are doing. Let them slow down. Let them regulate. And as you breathe in, fill your lungs up with air. Make sure they're completely full. No rush, no stress, no press. Just let them completely fill. And then as you exhale, just gently, smoothly exhale all your air out too. That's something people often forget. We breathe in deep, but then we forget to get out the stuff that carries out all kinds of toxins and stuff our bodies need to release. So let yourself come into this gentle rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. Let yourself become present. Be aware of any little tensions in your body. Notice what your body is doing. Maybe notice your posture. See if you want to get more comfy. You might want to roll your head around. We're about to jam a lot of stuff into a small amount of time. And each of you guys have a different path. So it's really good to, even though we are connected with the group, to get really into your own center right now. And so you can be at your own center of understanding and also be connected to the larger group of what we're doing at the same time. That's really important with this, because this isn't just something you're receiving. You're trying to become a hub of information yourself too. So let's just take this moment to open your mind, ask your brain, because all of our body parts are conscious. So ask your brain to be on it. Ask it to fire quickly. Ask it to be creative. Ask it to be lucid and pure and focused. You can even imagine that maybe all your little points of focus, all your little wishes, dreams, fears, hopes are spread out all over the planet as these little golden coins. And you can just take this moment to imagine that you are magnetizing all those golden coins of your thoughts, intentions, focus, and energy back to you, to tuck them in a little purse in the center of your chest where your heart is. So you can just bring all those golden coins in and say that for the duration of this workshop, you're focused here and now, knowing that when we're done, you can unfurl again to whatever you want to focus on. Hopefully, your focus will be even more purified and rarefied. And knowing that afterward, you not only will have had this moment of break, but also all of your faculties were focused here so that you can really do the best that you can and create the best thing that's going to help others as well. Calling in any guides that want to work with you, calling in just wisdom and any kind of anthropomorphic or non-anthropomorphic intelligence that will come and guide and help you to make the best decisions, not only for you, but also for the people who you are helping and teaching, and for the greater world, because every time we get new information, we add it to the collective. So just receiving that, accepting it. Take one more deep breath in to cement it. And breathe out, come back to the room. Okay, great. Lovely. So let's just jump right in. The way that we're going to do this is I've broken this down into steps. I've never taught this before, but I've been teaching online courses since about 2011 or 2010, 2011, one of those. So about 7-8 years. And I've been teaching my whole life since I started as a tutor when I was a teenager. So that's been a good 20-something years that I've been teaching. So I love teaching. It comes very naturally to me. And I understand how to break down curriculum and stuff. So what I truly believe is that online learning is the way of the future. I think that the university system and the educational system, Lily, that's my water. Excuse me, my cat is trying to drink my water. I mean, I guess you can have some. So anyway, you guys want to see it? Yeah, she always has to make a little cameo. Okay, anyways. So I believe that the old university system, the old education system, it had its place, but it's evolving into something else. I mean, it's obvious to see that. So what I think is coming is, especially because hierarchical knowledge, there's still, of course, a place for everything under the sun. However, Nowadays, you look around and people are really wise, and people are getting these activations and being able to understand things innately that are kind of hacking the system. You even look at things like natural building, how building with natural building is cheaper, more eco-friendly, faster, easier, common sense. It's like, wait a second, this whole thing is not what we thought. So that whole concept of optimization, smarter, not harder, we're downloading things into our minds, both from what we just innately know, because collective consciousness is a thing, and also by geeking out about stuff and getting information. We now have on our little hand computers more info than you could have gotten in a whole lifetime of library searching 20 years ago. So the first thing I want to tell you guys, and I will come back to this, I don't want to be too scattered, I have them a little order here, but we'll come and go from various concepts, is to be qualified to teach, you don't have to know everything in the world about something. To get a degree in college and university, undergraduate degree, most of the subjects are general. The amount of time that they use to teach you a specific subject is maybe a couple semesters of a full course load. And if you take that and break it down to how much time you spend in class and how much time you spend in reading, if you've been geeking out about something, you know, the stuff that you're really into, that you research on the internet at 2 a.m., that kind of stuff that your heart calls, which is what I hope that you align your teaching with because of many reasons. But if you've been geeking about something for at least 3 to 6 months, if you've been doing something and mastering it for longer in your unique way, which doesn't have to be the way anyone else does, if your course would save people time and also add in ways that you've synthesized the material, you are qualified to teach. Because you're not trying to teach someone everything about something. You're trying to teach them something that is useful. And we'll come back to that as well, like what exactly you want them to know. Because the point of this is teaching them something useful that's going to save them time, that's going to save them energy, that may save them money, depending on how it was they would get the info otherwise, and that they'll be able to walk away with something useful. So, okay. First, item 1 is you need to decide the subject that you teach. And this workshop you can do over and over and over every time you want to do a new class. I find myself wanting to teach new classes, having a new thing boil up and bubble up within me anywhere from every month to every few months or so. So you might do one, and then you can come back and watch this again and do these same steps with another subject if you want. Because I'm sure that everybody, at least here in this live call, has many subjects that you could teach. So it's just deciding which one is jamming out with you right now. Okay, so first you have to decide your subject, and my recommendations are, and I'll tell you the stuff, and then I'll give you a couple minutes to kind of write it out and brainstorm a little, and then we can talk about it. So first off, what do you love? It needs to be something that you love, because as you all remember in school, if you have teachers that don't like the subject, you don't learn from them as well. And so if you have a teacher that's really into it, you learn from them 20 times easier, because you just transmit a bunch more. And the emotion is what makes us learn. Emotion is what locks stuff into our mind. You think about times in your life that are the most stark in your brain, the clearest memories you have, it's because there was a lot of emotion. So if you are emoting as you're teaching this because you're feeling the authentic feels for it, you're going to not only teach better, but people are going to learn better. They're going to enjoy it more with you, et cetera, et cetera. So what do you love? And this can change too. It can be something you're fascinated by. It doesn't have to be a long life love. It could be something you've been into for the past couple years or year or whatever. What do you get lost in? That's an important thing. Where do you lose time? Where are you geeking out about something and you look up and you realize 3 hours just went by? So what do you love? What do you get lost in? And what do you have natural talent for? And when I say natural talent, you'll know it because of a couple things. The first one is, what if people always complimented you on? And I know sometimes it's hard to receive and it's hard to like toot our own horns and say what we're good at. But if you look back over the course of your life, there should be a couple things that are at least related to the other stuff that you were just thinking of, what you love, what you get lost in, that people have always said, you're just so good at that, or you're natural, or it's just whatever, right? People will have complimented you on it over the course of your life. So what do you have lifelong compliments over? And also, you kind of just know what's easy for you. what just happens to flow naturally for you, and what you like. So those 4 things. What do you love? What do you get lost in? What do you have natural talent for, which is lifelong compliments, and what you just kind of know you're good at. So I'm going to set a clock for 2 minutes. And I would love it if you guys would just jot down the answers to those questions. Again, this is your subject. This is item 1. What do you love? What do you get lost in? What do you have natural talent for? And our 2 minutes is beginning now. Okay. All right, finish your sentence or whatever you're writing. All right, so how are you guys feeling? You got stuff solidifying a little bit? You got some things? Yeah, okay. And again, right now, we're not thinking at all about how you're going to package it, how you're going to market it. No, this is just digging through to get the foundational stuff, okay? You ready to go to the next thing? All right, okay. Item 2. So now that you know what you love, now that you've kind of got a idea, because as you look back at what you wrote, even if you just like brainstorm something, do you see something you can grab on, focus on in those notes? Yeah, ish. If you don't, let me know and we can dig a little deeper. What do you think?
It's kind of
Maria. Yeah, Maria. Okay, so yeah, let's dig in a little. It's kind of abstract. What kind of stuff did you write, if you don't mind sharing?
No, not at all. So I wrote, what do you love? I wrote freedom, delicious, joyful life, basically self-expression and freedom.
Well, self-expression and freedom. That's a great topic. You could teach a course on that would benefit people.
Self-growth and mystic things and art.
Yeah. So, so why don't we focus on, because all that sounds like one thing to me. You could definitely weave it together, say, okay, creating things while having a holistic viewpoint of being mindful in life and benefiting yourself by shining brighter so you can benefit the world. Does that make sense? Is that kind of what you're talking about there?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. So we can go with that, at least just for this workshop, and you can always come back and tinker with it later. So, all right. So now, if you think about this stuff, and if you think about how you understand it, and if you think about, for instance, conversations maybe you've had with friends about it, where they come away from it like, okay, I understand a little better, or if you're giving recommendations, or if you just kind of understand how something works, even from your own internal process. if there's something that you know will benefit someone. So say Maria, say your topic. If someone is able to freely create in this world and they're able to be authentic and connected and mindful and, you know, interact in a way that's healthy and beautiful, if that can come into one or two things, just one or two things that you think could pretty much work for everyone, that are pretty, you know, either customizable or generic enough that can't hurt, you know, the item two that I'm trying to get to here is deciding the final outcome of the course. And also, this is not a huge thing. You can teach one useful thing. This does not need to be a whole book that you're writing, because also something to remember is if people are taking online courses, if they're not going to a university or a college or taking it via some center or whatever, they probably don't have a ton of time. They probably don't have a bunch of time to sit and devote to it. They probably don't have a bunch of energy. Their life is probably already pretty darn busy. And so being realistic about it, and that is actually one of the tips I'll give you guys, is that is actually one of the most challenging things, I think, for myself and everyone I know who does similar work, is making it light enough, making it doable enough, because then our wanting to master and wanting to give a good product often makes us pour way too much info in. And then the people who are there to receive it are like, this is too much. And then sometimes they can't process any of it and it ends up not being useful for them. So this can be one or two simple things. It can be a simple practice they should adopt into their everyday life. It can be some type of, Candy, I don't know what your topic is, but I know before you said healing. So like it could be some like simple energy healing technique. Simple, simple, simple. You want it simple. Yeah. Because again, if we're talking about ascending these paradigms of learning and understanding on our earth through this kind of stuff, it's always simple. It can be like have a lot of parts, but it's not confusing. You know, it can be complex, but it's not complicated. So the idea is that they'll come away with something that will benefit them, will hopefully benefit other people. And this doesn't have to be some crazy esoteric thing. I mean, I've been geeking out about natural building. I'm so grateful for the people who post videos on YouTube about like how to build a chimney pipe so that creosote doesn't float down and stain your stuff, you know, like things like that. It could be anything. I'm really actually hoping that some people who take this course are like, I want to teach people how to, I don't know, build a doghouse or something like that, you know, something that's really simple, but that they know how to do, that you have information that you can give away or sell or whatever, like gift away, and that it will create spirals of better stuff. You know, does that make sense? Okay, cool. So deciding the final outcome of your course. And again, you don't need to know everything about a subject, but if you've researched it or practiced it for 6 months or more, your class can definitely save your student research time and give them the way that you've synthesized it that will be beneficial to them and worth their time and money. And you can be confident about that. So let's decide on your final outcome of your course. What you want to know here is, in an ideal world, and again, this is not something you're locking in stone, you can always go back and change it. But in an ideal world, after someone, if you look at your number one subject and you say, okay, the thing that I was just talking about, if someone could walk away with the best I know of this, but the simplest and doable, what would it be? What is the final outcome that I want to be reaching toward? Does that make sense?
Can you reword it?
Sure. Okay, so, well, what's your subject, for instance? We'll try to customize it a little.
Well, I have, mine are kind of broad too, but
That's okay.
like, for instance, I'm releasing emotional blockages through energy work.
I actually have chill all through
right?
my back when you said that. So right there you go. So releasing emotional blockages. So as an example, if I were in your shoes, like the final outcome would be something like, after someone takes this course, they would be able to know the steps and be able to realistically do them to release an emotional block when they see it. You know?
Okay, got it.
Super simple. Yeah. Okay, so let's do another 2 minutes with that, and you can brainstorm on it and write about it. And again, you don't have to be writing full sentences here. Since it's only 2 minutes, you can just be messy scrawling stuff, like whatever works for you. So, and go.
Okay.
Okay, finish whatever you're writing on. Okay, how was that? Do you guys have any questions, comments, anything you want to share? All right, that's fine. Feel free to stop me too if anything comes up as we go. And also, I forgot to tell you guys this in the beginning, but this is always the case, especially with workshops like this that are then gonna be watched afterward by other students. If you have a question come up, also because I feel like you guys on the call at least are intuitive. So if you have a question come up, and even if it's not your question, go ahead and ask it, because it might be someone watching it later is like, oh, I want to know, and it's like coming back the timeline to you, you know. So that's a thing. Okay. So now our next item, number 3, is a branching out of number 2. So you decided your final outcome, your general final outcome. So your number 3, and this is kind of where you start just sketching out the curriculum, or brainstorming rather, the curriculum. And it's steps to master for your final outcome. So if the final outcome you want, for instance, Candy, is someone who knows how to clear energy blocks, at least for themselves. We'll say not even necessarily for others. You might be teaching that, but I'll just say right now, clear their own energy blocks, clear their own emotional blocks or whatever. How does someone do that? You know, step 1, step 2, step 3, maybe something like realize you're having an emotional issue, realize how to notice you're triggered or whatever. And then, okay, take a moment and breathe. And okay, visualize X, Y, and Z, whatever your method is. And so something important to remember here, again, is don't overdo it. Make it realistic for the time that they have to do this. And also, just in the back of your head, we'll come back around to marketing, but this is one of the really important things that you're sure about when you make this class, because when you market this class and when you tell people what they're getting, you want to be able to say, you need to spend this much amount of time and energy on this course. If you're teaching a course that someone needs to spend an hour and a half a day on for 7 days, you want to make sure that they know that, because some people really want to sign up for an hour and a half a day for 7 days. Some people do not. Some people want something they can do in 5 minutes a day. Some people want something they can do in a 2-hour workshop, you know? So but before you're deciding what would work best, and because we're forming this around the heart of the curriculum, not the package, we're going in, out, not out, in here. So what are the steps that they can use? And again, you're going simple here. Steps they can use to master the final outcome. What skill do you want them to come away with? And you break it down. Does that make sense? And again, simple is better. You can always get more complex, but it's hard to get more simple once you start on a roll. Okay. All right. So I'm going to set our little timer for 2 minutes. And go. Okay. Finish whatever you're on. Alrighty, so we're going to dig into this one for a minute because there's a little bit more to item 3 than just the outlining, because we have to figure out, this is also where we start to sketch the curriculum a little bit. So when you look at these, when you look at number 2 and number 3, when you look at the final outcome you wanted and just the brainstorm, because number 3 is something, I mean, that you could spend a whole day just on that, figuring out, okay, how does someone get the thing I'm trying to give them? So as you're looking at the stuff you wrote down, think about what is the minimum amount of time and the most doable, given your understanding of how it works for you and how you've maybe seen it work for others, amount of like connecting back in that will get your point across. For instance, what I'm working on, since I'm doing this with you guys, is I'm working on a new version of the Goddess Glow course. I've taught this course twice already, and just in the past 3 months or so, I've been getting lots of new downloads for the next version. And so, for instance, one of the things that the Goddess Glow course teaches is how to be connected with the unseen stuff, you know? And if you're going to be connected with the unseen stuff, as I'm sure all you guys know, then at least for the duration of this course, it's important to have a daily sacred retreat moment, either in the morning or at night, where you just shut yourself down and you don't let the outside world come in. You look at what's going on from the inside out, which can mean silent meditation, pulling an oracle card, having a cup of tea, journaling, whatever, right? But for an example, that is something that is a step. That is something that I would put in every day during the duration of this course for them to sit and do, because it's important that they be able to hear what's going on inside. And when you have all the time stuff coming in from outside and you have time or space to hear what's going on in you, you can't connect, really. Does that make sense? So that's an example of a step. But then I'm like, okay, well, how long would that take? And I'm saying, in a perfect world, in a perfect, subtle, reasonable, minimized, and optimized world, that would be 5 minutes. So 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. Either of those, depending on the internal circadian rhythm of the person taking the course, right? So that's, for instance, one of the things, like, okay, well, if you're gonna take this course, you're gonna commit to creating a space and then sitting in that space 5 minutes, either in the morning or at night. Another thing is, for instance, planning your food and your exercise, your self-care and your connection times. Because you can go and be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to exercise this week. But if you're not like, I'm going to exercise Tuesday morning when I wake up, and I'm going to lay out my exercise clothes Monday night before I go to sleep. So these kinds of things are how you're like, okay, break it down. See how you can, because my final result is people who have a deeper connection, enjoy hanging out in their own mind, body, and spirit, can understand what their inner being is telling them, have the kind of time to be able to fact check it, you know? And the mental space to be able to do that. So if they're going to take this course, they're going to have to commit to that amount of time and energy to do the thing, you know? So yeah, you can just kind of look at this a little bit more and look at the stuff that you've written down and see what kind of time, and this again is a sketch. You can go back through and shift this, but it's good to know at this point what kind of time commitment people will need to make to get it done. It can be a 2-hour workshop. If you're teaching them, like I have an aura workshop that's a couple hours. And it's like, okay, this is how you clear your aura. Step A, step B, step C. And after that, they can just clear the aura. They don't have to necessarily practice it every day. They could just go back and do the workshop whenever they need to. And eventually they'll memorize the process and blah, blah. So the idea is right now for step 3, you're looking and you're starting to form the skeleton of what kind of structure in 3D, realistic, you're going to ask them to do. This is the curriculum thing. This is how we make modules and chapters or lesson plans, that kind of thing. So how about I give you guys another 2 minutes to just kind of flesh this out a little bit. Think about, and again, you don't have to know every little detail because it's only 2 minutes, but you can kind of start to shape something that also feels realistic. And remember, you're going simple, simple. You're going optimized, and like the gem, the seed in the middle, not all the fluff around. They can always go more, but it's hard to do less when they're overwhelmed with the amount of assignments they have. Okay. And there we go on 2 minutes. All right. All right. So how are you guys feeling about this? Is it making sense? Do you have any questions? Anything you want to share?
25 minutes too much?
No,
I,
no, not at all. What were you gonna say, Sarah?
I was going to say, so I wrote down the limit for each potential task I might give them. Was that what we were supposed to do?
Could you repeat that question? I could only hear about
can
half
you hear
of
me?
it. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Could you just repeat it? It just glitched out a little as you were getting to the middle of your sentence. Would you just say again?
So this portion was to write down the estimated amount of time it would take a person to complete each little assignment that we give them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what I was also going to say too, I'm so amazed. When I first did the first part, the first writing down part, the item number 1, I wrote down like all the things I'm good at or whatever. I was like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I'm not really sure what all this means, And then all of a sudden, like the 4th one you just did, I was like, oh wow, that's totally exactly what I'm doing. Like it just came together like really quickly, and it sounds good.
Awesome. One of the things that I love about this kind of new paradigm of teaching and learning is that the whole idea, okay, so there's this book. Have you guys heard of The Ringing Cedars of Russia? And the first one's called Anastasia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
OMG.
I've read a lot of the first one, I think, but it was years ago.
Okay, so it's got a lot of just paradigm shifting, especially if you like to live in harmony with the land and if you understand energy and if you understand, life purpose and stuff. The chick in it, Anastasia, she's not like the Russian noble or royal Anastasia, completely different person. But reading it's nice because you're like, oh, I've been thinking this and no one says it, so it's that kind of feeling. But one of the things that she describes is a method of schooling where it's, I don't know, the maybe the range of ages is like 8 years. So it's like 10-year-olds to 18-year-olds or so. And the first time they get together in school, I don't know if it's the first day or the first week or something, there's this great big assembly, and the oldest kids and the youngest kids, so the seniors and the ones just starting or whatever, mill around. I'm sure there's some type of connection exercises that they do. And the whole point is to find someone who has that thing that you have in their eyes, who understands things the way that you do, the oldest and the youngest. And then what ends up happening is that the oldest tutor the youngest, you link with that partner that understands things the way that you do. And then they tutor them and assist them. And then everything goes so much faster. They learn so much more because you just get each other and you can just describe it. So the thing that I really like about this method is that if it's something that you feel a soul calling to, if it's something that you've been geeking out about and you just like, or you're just good at or whatever, then you have these codes of energy, you're embodying it. So as people learn from you, whether they learn through video or through audio or through just pure text, if you're emailing them, whatever, we'll get to that. But no matter how they learn, if it's something that you're feeling and that you're doing and that you have done, they're not only getting what you're teaching them, but they're getting all these other details and little codes of information. You can think about it like coding on a computer, you know, these little things on the back end and these little things that you've mastered that you might not even realize you're giving away through your body language or through the way you word stuff or through the way you set up your curriculum. So that Sarah, what you said is great because you're like, oh, I already do this. So that you can definitely, if you do it, you can teach it. Especially if, and what we'll get to in a little while, is if you're honest about who you are in your marketing stuff, so that the people who find you aren't only the ones who want your course, but the ones who like your flavor, because then they know that they can pay attention to you, that they want to learn from you, etc. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so any questions, anything you guys want to talk about this step? Sarah, you're free. Oh, you're muted. You're unmuted.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry, the Zoom
It's okay.
went on and off, but I'm here.
Great. You're a little frozen. Okay. I think I'm gonna wait for you to come back. I don't know. Maybe she needs to restart again. While we're waiting for Sarah, Candy or Maria, do you guys have questions or comments or anything?
For me, I think it's just going to take a lot of personal time going out and fleshing this out. This just gives me a guideline and makes me realize that I need to spend a lot more time on each step. Of course, I'm sure that's what you intend, but
yeah. The idea is that you get the download here, and then later you go and say, okay, and you spend like a week or two at least looking at each one and being like, okay, how can I do this? But I want to remind you, make it simple and easy. The simple, always, especially with most things that people are going to get online, imagine that you're teaching it to a small child, because, you know, we're all busy. We don't necessarily have time to go deep and geek out about stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it's always, the more time you spend on something, the more you perfect it and make it more depthful, make more deep, the more they're going to get from it. So that's good. But also something to caution just for you and for anyone else who may be watching later is that I know so many incredible people in this world who have incredible gifts to give and are perfectionists and don't do it because they're prepping forever.
Yeah.
And so tis better to release something that's really simple and that you can then always build on. You can say, okay, advanced techniques and keep going. But if you can find that one thing that they're going to benefit from, that's all you need to do with the first course. Sarah, I think you're frozen. Oh, certainly. Yeah. And anytime you guys have questions, please interrupt me and ask because I also am aware that of a potential pitfall that I have been doing this for so long. So there could potentially be like simple things that I might forget to tell you because it might be second nature to me. So if there's anything that you want to know, stop me and ask. Okay, Sarah, you're back. Maybe. Are you back?
Good. Oh, good. I came back on and off.
Yeah. Okay, so you were saying something. Oh, there you are. Yeah, I see. Okay, you were saying something. What was it?
I don't know. I mean,
okay.
I know I said before we went into all the energetic code stuff that it was just like, blah, blah, blah. And I really wasn't sure. And then like all of a sudden, suddenly I was like, aha, like there it is. Like it just kind of came together really quickly for me.
Nice.
So.
Okay, good. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So how are you guys feeling about this step? Are you confident with it? Do you want to dig into it a little bit more? Do you have a pretty good handle of the kind of time commitment that you might be asking? It can be bare bones. What are you thinking? Like for instance, for mine, I'm realizing that what I would need people to do is devote about 15 minutes per day, broken up. So like 5 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes a night to journal, a couple minutes in the middle of the day to pop up their energy, that kind of thing. And then 1 day a week to prep their meals and their exercise, which is like a few hours. They'll have to devote time for the live calls. So adding all that up, and it's not a bad thing to devote more time. You just want to be honest, because also there are people who are like, I really want to dig into this course. I don't want something that's only going to take me 5 minutes a day. I want to spend the next however long really focused on this thing and really going deep. So again, there's no right or wrong. What you're trying to do is find the people who want to learn from you in your way. So be most authentic, and that's going to work the best. I think that it's a real misnomer right now that people are teaching these packaged kind of things that are like, okay, you need to do it this way and this way and this way. It might work, but then if it's not really what's aligned with your best understanding, people are going to feel that little bit of fakeness, and they're going to be like, I don't want to do it. You know, like it's interesting, but so it's best to go with what feels right to you. And then it's going to carry that authenticity, and people are going to know they can trust you. This is all ineffable stuff. It's really, really subtle, but it makes the difference between people who come away frustrated and feeling like they wasted their money and time, and people who are excited and want to know the next time you're going to teach something, you know? And also, just commenting, I know, Sarah, you and I have had conversations about this before. The way that our world currently is, a lot of people don't even understand where their integrity lines are. So it's not an obvious thing, because you have to know yourself really well. And most of us just don't necessarily. So being as honest as you can about, okay, this is what I know. I don't necessarily know everything, but I do know this one thing, and I'm trying to give it to you. You see? So ready to go to step 4? All right. So this is, again, jumping back and fleshing out a little bit these steps, because we're kind of in curriculum town now. And so step 4 is the length of the course. So looking at the amount of time that and you, like I said, you can always change this to something else. But the idea here is that now that you know about how much time they'll need to devote to the things, and you know what your final outcome is, you should be able to give a ballpark of, okay, this will be a 2-hour workshop. This will be a 2-week course. This will be a 6-month course. This will be, 3-week, 21-day. This is what I've discovered in my courses. So usually the way I do mine are video based, and sometimes they have live events, sometimes they don't, but they usually, what I like to do is small packets of information with a lot of depth. So it's like, okay, you only need to consciously think about something for 3 or 4 minutes per day, but then it's going to be percolating in throughout the day. Like, give them a lot of ways. So I don't like to ask, my personal flavor, I don't like to ask people to devote a big chunk of their time, because I know they're busy. But what I do ask them to do is have it spinning in the back of their mind. So things like, one of the assignments I often give for the Goddess Glow is allow yourself to look deeply into people's eyes as you talk to them. People that you just met, people that you've known for a while, people at the grocery store, doesn't matter. If you're having a conversation with someone, take the scales off your eyes and allow yourself to look deeply in, just to experiment, see what happens. And so that, for instance, is something that doesn't necessarily add more time to the day, to their assignments. But so you see what I'm saying? So, but I will say that what I've learned is that after, because I like to do like 21-day courses, 2-week courses, 21-day courses, because as you guys probably know, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to really set in a new habit. That said, people are busy. They have stuff going on. Unexpected things happen in life. And if you're doing deep work with someone, or if you're teaching them, this is not so much as when you're going to build a doghouse, although it could be, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. If it's something that someone has not already mastered and they're trying to grow into it, they're going to come up against blocks. It's very likely that there's going to be some block they have. Even if it's going to build a doghouse, even if they have to, make that initial $55 investment to go to Home Depot and buy the stuff, if they have a block to receiving posh accommodations for their pets, if they have a block to abundance or if they have a block to spending time on something they want to spend time on and not devoting 24/7 to their family and children, whatever it is, has nothing to do with your course, they might fall off, because it might take them a while to get through that block and actually go to Home Depot. So the reason I'm telling you this is what I learn in my classes is that people drop off, even if it's a very, very simple class. Stuff will come up, blocks will come up, and then it may take them way longer to get through a certain spot. It might take them months to do a class that should be a week and a half long. And that's okay, but also know that that's a possibility. as you're saying, okay, how long do I want to get them to commit to this? What is the length of time? Knowing that, especially if it's not a live thing. Now, if it's a live thing that you're like, okay, this class is, I give you assignments every Tuesday and then we meet every Monday to talk about what happened the previous week live, then it's more likely they're going to show up. If it's something like a recorded class, it's likely that they're going to take their time doing it. And so know that it might stretch out. The time might stretch out. So given that, and trying to be realistic, what item 4 is about the length of the course. Is it a workshop or a class? You know, is it a class or an intensive?
3 o'clock.
How deep do they need to, whoa, okay. That's interesting. How deep do they need to go? And how much time, also looking back at what you want them to know, looking back at what the final outcome is, what you think is reasonable right now. And also, you can always redo courses. If you do it once and you don't like stuff about it, you can always redo it. Or you could always do progressive steps. Like Candy, I feel like your work would be really good for this. It's like, okay, you give them the basics, and the people who just need the basics can go along. But the people who want to dig deeper, you can give them more specialized info as it goes, you know?
Right.
Okay, so any questions before we brainstorm about the length of the courses? I'll give you guys another 2-minute alarm. Good? All right, great. Item 4, the length of your course. Was it a course or a workshop? How long, and what the commitment is? All right. All right, so you finish up. Okay, how was that? You guys have a decent handle? Flow all right?
Yeah, I you know, before you were just talking about like, is it a workshop or a class? And I don't know, like that hadn't occurred to me really, even though I think I took one workshop one time on like website stuff, and it was maybe 2 different times. So I've been a participant at least one time in that kind of format. But when I wrote it out, it kind of made sense to me that it would be, for me at least, what I'm thinking of doing, more of a workshop format, because it is, I think it would be very emotional to try to cram it all into like just 2 hours or even one, just like, okay, do this and then go do this. And then, you know, maybe spaced out is just like more digestible for people, you know?
Yes, that's the big thing. So for workshops are like a one and done kind of thing. Workshops are, I have this packet of information, I'm gonna give it to you, you can have it, and then it can percolate over time. Versus classes or intensives, which would be, this is something you want to be weaving into your life. You know, this is something that you want to be like creating habits around. And I'm going to hold your hand through creating this habit, because depending on what your final outcome is, if you want this to be something they walk away from and do often or have a handle on regularly, it might be better to have an accountability system through this course that makes them do it and do it and do it and do it until it becomes a habit. So that, and whereas workshops are, I'm gonna teach you how to do something and then you'll know how to do it.
Mm.
Yeah. And again, it's all about the subject, you know. What is your subject, by the way?
Well, so, you know, I'm an artist, and I think a lot of people like relate to me in that way, which I see myself as an artist, but I also, you know, my passions like generally include like healing, and then a lot of other stuff too, of course, but like I love talking about healing, and I love to like hear other people's stories, and like just from a self-healing standpoint, because I feel like I tried for a long time to go a traditional route and go to therapists and outsource, so to speak, and it just didn't work for me. And so
I like that concept.
Yes,
outsource your healing. That's interesting. Yeah.
I just went to like this rock bottom place in like 2009 where I was like, well, I can't trust anyone. I didn't trust anyone. And I felt like if I paid anyone else to like help me, it just was not going to work. And so I came up with like my own kind of art therapy process to be able to dissect the areas of my life that I couldn't remember well enough because of like trauma. And there were just like really, really fuzzy specific years. Like for a lot of people that might be like college or something, you know what I mean? But like how to
childhood.
Yeah.
They were abused or something.
Right. Yeah. And how to really get in there and dissect visually the parts that are the fuzziest. From using a visual calendar to record what you think you can remember, and then basically to, you know, break that down in journal and then make art and then burn it. So,
whoa, wow.
Like those are like really different steps, you know, like at first I was like, oh yeah, 2 hours. And then I was like, maybe that's like way too much for someone to just like,
it could be an intensive.
You know?
That could be, you know, it could be, and you could even say, you know, and you could also do both. You could have the option for people to do a workshop, or the option for them to do the class, depending on and say what the difference is. You know, an idea I'm getting though, because you can always mix methods as well. So, for instance, you could have it be like, okay, well, you have journaling prompts throughout the week or whatever that are going to get you to the place that you want to focus, and then you gather all your art supplies. And we meet Thursday at 5 p.m. online, and we all do our art together. It could be something like that.
I just thought about that too. And then like at the last class could be, you could like share if you want, or like share what you learned or realize, and then like burn it, you know, and then.
There's something really powerful about live communication. You know, I mean, and and actually sometimes I don't prefer live communication, because I'm like, I want people to be able to do stuff on their schedule. Mm-hmm. But that said, there's something really powerful about being all together in one time and being able to see each other and interact. Yeah. You know, so you could, what I'm feeling like with that is like, you could definitely mix the two. You could definitely have live things while you're giving them time to process. You could even have it something like depending on how much passive you want it to be, because if you want to make a course that you just roll out once and then people are just buying it and seeing the videos or reading the emails or whatever, or you could have it as something that you're there with them each time, so that you either read you, or a combination of the two. That's what I'm planning on doing for the next Goddess Glow course. I plan on recording the curriculum videos, and then we'll also have a live meeting. So every time we have a live meeting, right when the live meeting starts, they get the curriculum video. So they watch it, get the curriculum, and then we discuss it in the live meeting. So I don't have to redo the curriculum every time, but then we can customize it to the people. So you can mix them depending on what the outcome is.
Yeah, I guess because like if it was like, not a workshop, if it was like a course thing, and then if people were sharing, like I wouldn't want to record that and put it online for someone to buy, you know what I mean, later. But if it was just a PowerPoint where I'm explaining the condensed version, like that could be, right? That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, because so for instance, with the one that I'm talking about, it's that There will be the recorded, okay, this is what we're talking about this week. This is what you're focusing on this week for the God School program. And then our live call will probably be something that we all see and then is maybe sent to the people in the current class who couldn't make it. But it's not something that people who take future classes are going to get access to.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, so you can definitely mix them. And also for instance, this thing that we're doing right now, it's going to be a workshop, and then there's going to be an optional class to take you through the steps over like a 2-week period if you want it. And that's like a different service, but the people who didn't take the workshop aren't even going to have access to that class. The only way you can even buy that class is if you've taken the workshop. So then, from a business standpoint, it's like, well, it like makes the group smaller. But then again, I'd rather make less money and have people creating more epic shit than I would rather make a bunch of money and people never do it. Because I have definitely experienced both, and it is very frustrating, with the work that I do. So it just depends on what fits. Sometimes I don't care. Sometimes I'm like, take this class on fasting and do whatever you want with it, But sometimes like, no, I care about what you do. And this is one of those. Yeah. Maria, how's it going for you? How's your process going?
It's going good. I guess I also picked a kind of deep one too, kind of emotional. I actually, I've been thinking about this class for a while. I used to have a problem with food and eating and the whole thing about it, but I don't longer have a problem. So it's not so passionate anymore, but I feel like I have to let it out to share how I kind of let go of all of it. And now I'm able to eat whatever I want and completely free myself from it. So I guess it makes sense how we started from the beginning, how I said I like
That's
shrimp.
okay.
So that has stimulated me a little bit of it, but it is kind of deep and it's very emotional. I feel like it would be. I mean, it certainly was for me. So I guess I was also struggling with like the timing and how to do it, but I do really like the idea of a live thing. It seems more intimate.
Yeah, and also, one thing that comes up over and over, especially with this kind of soul work, is that those of us who've had issues with stuff understand it in such a way, especially if we've come through it. And that's actually, and this is for you guys and anyone else watching this in the future, it's a personal pet peeve of mine when I look out and see people teaching stuff that they're not embodying yet. When I see people like learn stuff and then teach it right away. And I'm like, you're giving out an incomplete code, and I try not to be judgy, but sometimes it's hard if it's something that's like emotional versus if you've come through it, done it, and healed it, and and then people can, for instance, ask you questions and you can answer them because because you've been there, so the fact that you're not super emotional about it anymore is probably really good, because you can have a still point and people might be flopping around in the course a little bit because they might be emotional, and you can provide that grounding spot for them because you're not in it anymore, but you were, so you can remember how it was. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Awesome. So yeah, and as far as like the timing and stuff goes, yeah, that's when you might need to unwind that. And also, this is something that I actually really appreciated about one of the graduate schools I went to. It was an online based graduate school. One of them I went to was in person. One of them I went to was online, and we would get together every so often at retreats and do the thing. But especially in psychology, which is what this was in, often psychologists do not have to do the stuff that we get their patients to do. So then you have a lot of psychologists running around who do a lot of spiritual bypass and intellectual bypass and have weird issues and never actually face them because they're so busy helping other people, not dealing with their own stuff. So it's really important. And especially with what you're doing, you're going through it. You're like digging out your own past and being like, okay, what do I do with this? How do I structure it in a way that's helpful? It's really good that you go through and do it first. So you know the landscape of it, and you can really be there with them and hold them as they go through it, especially something that's, like eating disorders, no joke, right? And so many people struggle with that. It's like an epidemic, especially in our Western civilization. So cool. That's neat. I like that. I've actually don't know if I've ever seen that. I'm sure it exists, but I know it's needed. Because even just the people in my work were like, yeah, I used to, so many special people have
Yeah.
All right. So how are we on time? It is 12. We got 45 minutes. We're doing so great. Okay. So we've got kind of the length of the course. Yeah. You're kind of okay with, do you guys want to dig into that a little more, or are you comfy with it?
I'm good with mine.
Okay, cool. So point 5 is the medium. So there you have options, and now we're going to be getting a little bit more technical now. Okay, so the medium is, the options you have are quite a few. It's the internet, or it's in person. This idea is online courses, but you could also use this for an in-person workshop or something that you hold in your city, or a retreat event or whatever, right? So the main ones that I know of are video, audio, and text. So that's either you record videos, which can be live or recorded, or you give audio files. And I've actually not experimented with that much, but I have friends who do online work who have, and I think it's really cool, because also that doesn't necessarily mean that someone's tied to their computer or their phone. You can give them a curriculum, say a 20-minute long lecture on whatever it is that they're doing, that they can listen to on their drive to work. They can listen to while they're making dinner. They can listen to when they're brushing their teeth. So audio is nice. It's a nice option too. And again, you can mix these. So there's video, audio, and text. And text would be just written. So it would be like emails or a web page they go check in on every Monday when the new curriculum is up, or whatever. The thing here is not to think about what you think will work the best with your student. The thing here is think about how you connect the best, how you emote the easiest, what's easiest for you, how you can package who you are the easiest. And some people are not comfortable on video, want to write it out. Some people don't like writing it out, want to speak it out. Some people, like, I'm most comfortable with video because I feel like it transmits the most of the information that I transmit. So I feel like there are codes hidden in like everywhere, right? So it's better to be able to look and connect. Also because I learn through eye contact. So I'm assuming that if I learn through eye contact, I probably teach from my eyes too. So, but that's just mine. So then thinking about with yours, what's easiest for you? When you communicate with your friends, what do you do? Like, do you write long emails? Do you talk on the phone? Do you send messages back and forth, like FaceTime or Marco Polo or whatever? So thinking about, and also, like I said, you can combine them. But really the point here is to think about how you can get most emotionally and holistically, mentally involved and connect the easiest, and which medium that would be, or which combination of mediums that would be. So I will set the clock for 2 minutes and go. All right. So finish up your thought. What mediums are you guys feeling? What feels easiest and most flowy to you?
I love video. I mean, I love I haven't really gone live on my Instagram to paint. I'll paint live, but like I don't usually just like talk live, but I feel comfortable with that. And I used to have to do PowerPoints in my job several years ago. But it was really boring because it was like related to transportation. So it was lots of like highway stuff. But anyways, I learned a lot, like technically speaking, on like PowerPoints. So I feel comfortable with that too.
PowerPoints are great. You know, visual cues are great. Again, it activates more areas of the brain. Yeah, that's nice. I definitely like the mix of them, like, you know, to send a video and then send a little text. For instance, if you give them an assignment, and sometimes I'm better at this and sometimes I'm worse at it, depending on how grounded I am as I'm teaching. But for instance, something I've learned is handy is to describe their assignment in the video, and then at the minimum make text underneath it. It's like, okay, so here's your assignment. Because when they might be like, okay, well, what was I supposed to do? Rather than having to go fast forward to minute 8 in the video, they can just look at that block, even though they already know, just that reminder to be like, okay, high points, you know, because you want them to be able to reference it. You don't, the idea is you want it to be easy for them to get the information. Now, how they process it and how much time they spend working with it is up to them. And one thing that's always true about online courses, really anything, but mostly online courses, is you get out what you put in. You know, if you don't spend any time and effort on it, you won't get all that much. But if you like dive in, then you'll get deeper stuff. Cool. Okay. What about you guys, Candy and Maria?
I like the idea of maybe the first one being a live video, and then just so I can flesh it out and see how people feel about it, how they're receiving the information, and then subsequent ones I might do the original one being like a recorded. And I like the idea of you saying you do a recorded one and then you meet, like, say once a week, because mine's going to be about 21 days too, so meet once a week to discuss pitfalls and wins and stuff. But I really loved the idea of adding the PowerPoint too, so that they could see you know, in visual word form, and then they can download that later and have something to refer back to. So rather than frantically taking notes and stuff, I really love that idea, and I didn't even think about that. But I've done ones where Zooms where they'll just like share their screen, and there'll be like a PowerPoint or a document that they can either copy down, or I can just email that to them separately, or both. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. And also the power of images. You know, if you're especially if you're talking about something emotional, and you go find an image that really exemplifies that, and you're putting that up while you're talking about it, it can go deeper.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with energy work, you can be like, okay, this is the aura, this is the chakra system. You know. Yeah.
I love that idea too. The PowerPoint idea is really good. I think that I also would like to do videos. I'm a little shy, and I guess there's like this fear of exposing myself.
Yeah, that's a thing. But the ways that the tips I have for that are to imagine that your camera is one person. You're just talking to one person, and that the pupil, the camera is the pupil of their eye. So sure, I think it worked. I mean, I've really tried in my life to figure out to infuse energy into tech. You know, it's something that it wasn't created necessarily for emotional energy, but those are some tips. And also to remember, especially if you start getting like insecure about the stuff that especially we as women get insecure about, to remember that you are a vessel of this information. So all you can do is be as authentic and open and loving as you can, and be a vessel. Because if they've bought this class from you, They already like you. No one's hardly ever. I mean, sometimes when I used to do those 11/11 sales, I often ended up regretting them because sometimes people would buy my stuff that didn't actually like me, and they were just like, and I hate you because of this and this and this, you know? So, but it's not likely that that's going to happen. It's probably, if someone's buying your stuff, it's because they want to learn from you. And also remember too, that we all have insecurities. So they're more likely to be insecure about themselves looking at you than they are to be criticizing you. So when it comes down to it, if you're feeling a little insecure, try to break open and be like, what is this divine frequency that's trying to come through me? Because it's not about me. I got flaws. Everyone's got flaws. Every single person. And so it's about the info, and as gracefully as you can do it, but you're already embodying it. You already are. If your heart is calling you and you already have a fascination with it, it's already in you. So all you have to do is just, anytime you start feeling insecure, stop thinking about yourself and think about the info, you know, and just let it come through. Because that's a thing. Absolutely, that's a thing, you know, and that's also, I think, one of the big things that is one of the reasons why some amazing, amazing, amazing people I know still have not made anything in the world, because they're super, super powerful, but they're insecure. And it's like, man, people don't care about that, whatever you got over there that you feel weird about. They want the info. And actually being less perfect makes you more human, makes you more relatable, easier to learn from. So, yeah.
I think also, like, probably in a lot of like the work that we're talking about doing, not that it's not going to attract men, because it might be applicable, but a lot of it's probably going to be just women like that are your vibe. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
It's like, I've never met Maria or Candy, but like, I know they're like my people, you know, I can tell, you know, I mean, so you're going to like the people that are attracted into your classes, and, you know, and it might be a little scary at first, but ultimately it probably will be a bunch of like really cool women that like art and, you know, healing and stuff. So,
with mine, it tends to be women. Usually there's a token guy, like one or two. Even in who bought this class, I would say the percentage of guys was probably like, I mean, I don't know how many people have bought this class so far. Maybe like somewhere in the teens have bought this class, and like one or two guys have bought it. So, you know, it's usually about like that. And that's fine. And for all I know one of them who bought it is a photographer. So I'm like, he might be teaching photography, which is why like some of this stuff is not going to have anything to do with what he's teaching. So, but that's the point, is to be able to do it with anything. And because regardless of whether it's spiritual or secular, people are still taking it from you because they like you. They're still taking it from you because there's something about your vibe that they were attracted to, versus anyone else's vibe, you know, versus just going and getting a book on it from the library, or geeking out on YouTube videos all night, or whatever. There's a reason they got it from you, and that's something to be proud of, you know? Like, even, I mean, going a little more esoteric for a moment, you think like we're created and we're honed by some greater force. And so if we have this job to do, we want to be able, think about flowers, you know, like say God or whatever creates the flowers. And if the flower's like, I can't, you know, it's like frustrating, right? So the God's like, just shine, bring in bees, like do what you're supposed to do. And the flower just gets out of its own way. It's like, well, I kind of like the way the sun feels. And I kind of, okay, let me just spread out. Then done. And it's not even thinking about itself or its petals or whatever, you know.
That's a good way to put it.
Thanks. Trial and error. That's how I know, because I know what you mean. Okay. So a couple of tips about the medium. And this is, again, more tech stuff. Okay, technical stuff. So there are ways that you can deliver your courses. And this will depend on the kind of mediums that you want to use. I love email, you know, just saying, okay, you're going to get an email every so often. People tend to like that. It tends to work pretty well. I've tried a few different ways. Email tends to be just the best one. And there's pros and cons of it. But even the cons of it, for instance, like maybe sometimes like when I'm on the road and there's no internet, sometimes I can't sit down and send out an email. I just don't have the option. But now, I mean, I just use my Gmail account for class stuff. And you can even put a send later. So I can sit down with all my emails and send them all out, and they're getting there when they need to get there. there's also a service you can use. It's a paid service. It's like, I don't know, $15 a month or something like that, called Aweber. Aweber, Aweber. And that you can kind of put the whole class in, and you can say how often you want the emails to go out. And you can put the email however you want. If it's like an email that has a video in it, you can do that. If it's text, if it's, you know, kind of like this one, this is the info for our Zoom call, whatever. You can still have them go out, and you can say, okay, send out these emails every 2 days from email number 1, send out the next one 2 days later, send out the next one 3 days later, send out the next one 1 day later, whatever. And then all you have to do in the end is input, once you've got that structure set up, is input their email address and be like, okay, I want to start this person on the cycle. And then that's really the most easy, no-brainer, walk away from kind of thing. And I think probably MailChimp can do that too. MailChimp is it's a newsletter service, but I think that you can also do timed email blasts with that. And so yeah, email, Aweber, MailChimp. Now, when you're doing videos, you can either do something like load one just to your computer, record it on your phone, your computer, camera, whatever, load it onto your computer, and then put it in something like a Dropbox account and send them the link. Or do you guys know what Dropbox? It's like an online storage thing. I think it's free up to a pretty big amount. And then, or you could just send them an email with the video itself. Or, and this is what I usually do because my tech is always full of space, it does not have space, the space is always full, upload it to YouTube under unlisted or private. And then if it's unlisted, which is what I almost always use, you can then email that link. So even though it's unlisted, it's not going to, so since it's unlisted, it's not going to come up on a search. Someone could search me, they're not going to see all my class videos. However, if I send them the link, they can see it. Private, the difference between unlisted and private, so that was unlisted. Private is that I have to say this email address can watch it. So that means if I'm doing a class where I have their emails right there and I can approve them and I really want to make sure that this doesn't get out, for instance, like those live chats or something, it could be okay like that. But if I have a class I just want to keep sending out and sending out and sending out, and I don't want to have to go and input all those email addresses every time I want to send out a class video, unlisted would be the way to go if you're doing YouTube. Also, there's Zoom, which is what we're on right now, which I actually really like. I only found out about this about a year ago. I used to use, at one point I used Google Hangouts. I've used Skype. Zoom I like because of the interface. I just find that it's user friendly, but that's just like a personal, that what you have an affinity to. There's no rhyme or reason or objective better or worse there. It's just whatever you like and whatever wants to happen. But I will say, excuse me, that especially if you're teaching a course where people are going to have to come back and check in on, make it way easier and don't expect them to remember to come check. Even if you say every other day or every Monday, still send them reminder emails, still send them like, and every reminder email, send the link again, you know, for whatever it is they need. Because, and yeah, I mean, you could complain and say, well, people should know and people should do it and commit. True. However, we do live in a society where everything's just right here. So we might as well just spoon feed it to them if they went to the trouble of doing it. And it's not really all that much work from your end. It's like writing another email, which you could just do once and then keep sending it out, you know. So that's the medium. All right, any questions about anything before we go to the next? All right, so item 6, follow-up. Okay, this is actually the thing that I struggle with the most in my work is follow-up. But especially given that you guys, I mean, really anyone, it could be a very secular thing like building that doghouse or photography, that it's like, hey, how did it go? How's it going? What have you made? You can give people options to, like, you can share with the group. You could, for instance, start a Facebook group or open up a chat on a web page somewhere where your work is, like an unlisted page on your website that only people in your class have that address to, where they can share what they've done. Or, and what's really important about follow-up is that you can get reviews to make your stuff better, because the whole idea is to keep making it better. And a lot of times people Some things you can't help. Like for instance, on my YouTube videos, every now and then again, it's like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Make it louder. And I'm like, dude, everyone else can hear me. I can hear me. I don't know how to make it louder for you. You know, sometimes there's stuff like that. But sometimes there's stuff like, you know, I would have really appreciated more focus on whatever exercises, blah, blah, blah. And maybe that didn't occur to me because maybe wherever that person is coming from is not the same place that I come from. So I didn't realize that I should have fleshed that out more. And so it's nice to go back and say, how was it? What can we do better? And also, especially for emotional kind of stuff, to let people know that they're still held in this container of, we were in this together. Even if you don't necessarily have to exert that much more energy, just wanted to let you guys know that, you know, thinking about you, like about a week or so afterward, it tends to be like a good sweet spot after they've kind of had time to integrate it and to maybe practice a couple things, or if it's not, especially if it's something challenging, to let stuff come up. You know, it doesn't usually necessarily come up right there in the moment. It might take a day or two for it to like boil up to the surface. So then being able to say, and you can even do things like, for instance, have a follow-up live chat. So after, especially if it's something highly emotional, you could say, okay, we have the workshop, we have the class. And then when the class is over, send them an email and say, okay, there's an optional live chat in another week and a half's time. If you guys want to come on and share your process, I'll do this. And then in the beginning, when you're, and we're going to get to pricing in a minute, but when you're doing this, you also would add in that time, that of your time that you put into the price, because it's optional. But if it's optional, they're still paying for it because they can do it. You know, like it's there for them. Does that make sense?
I was going to say, one of the classes I took, I think it was on the website stuff, the lady did have some kind of automated email that went out. It might have been SurveyMonkey or Google Note, you know, where it just was like a score 1 to 5. Maybe you were going to go into that.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, that's an example of it for sure. I mean, and it just depends, like
on maybe just more of the technical aspect, or, you know, like what they immediately thought. And I did fill it out. I remember because it just came.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, and it's nice to have that follow up for the person who took the course. And it's nice also for you as the teacher of the course to get that feedback. Mm-hmm. Especially depending on what you're doing. Like I know that for me, the stuff that I do, it's really high energy. So usually at the end of it, everyone's all buzzed and like, ooh, it was great. But then if I let a few days go by and I'm like, what could I have done better? Then they're like, actually, you could have, you know, this or that would have been an improvement. And then that helps me because then next time I can make it better. So it just depends. And as far as, you know, scale of 1 to 5 versus text boxes, the subject matter will decide that for you. You know, like if you say, how does your soul feel on a scale of 1 to 5? You know, that's a little harder. But if you say, you know, how easy was it to use this interface with me? How easy was it to make time? You know, stuff like that you could do. Did you find it effective? You know, that kind of thing. And I think honestly with that stuff, it's probably a mixture will be the best. So to do this little writing assignment for item 6, think about the follow-up and say, okay, given the info that you're sharing, the energy that it sits in, and the type of interactions that you're wanting to do, what do you think would be the best follow-up? Like what are, or even just brainstorm, not necessarily the best one, but what are ideas that you have about ways to follow up? So because not only does that say, hey, I care about you, I want to make sure that everything's good and I want to know your feedback, but also it can then say, and if you liked this thing that I did, here's another thing I'm going to do. And we'll get back to a little bit of that kind of idea in marketing, but I really find that it's hard sometimes, especially for those of us who maybe aren't the best at putting ourselves out there, because people want to know what you're doing, especially if they liked it. They want to know more, and might as well not make them search. Now, that doesn't mean they have to do it, but if they want it, it's there. Like they can find it, you know? So I'll set my clock for 2 minutes here and then just brainstorm your follow-up, thinking about the rest of it, thinking about the kind of vibe you want them to have, the kind of wisdom you want them to come away with. What are some ideas about follow-up you could do?
I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. I'll be right back.
Okay, sure. All right, there we are. We'll wait till Candy comes back. You guys can shoot things for them. All right. Any questions about follow-up? Any thoughts or something you want to share or talk about? Or, I mean, that one's pretty simple, and that's like really customizable, and you don't have to do it. It's just kind of one of those little, I had a teacher in school when I was studying psychology who would call it good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. And, you know, to have a good connection in the beginning, and then of course it's easy in the middle when everything's going on, but then good at the end. That's something, you know, to put that bracket on and be like, okay, completion, you know? All right. So for item 7, we got 2 more of these. We go to 8. Item 7 is pricing. And this is the thing a lot of us have trouble with because it comes up against all of our receiving issues and all of our worthiness issues and all that. But remember, they're buying a service. They're not buying your soul. They're not buying your worth. They're buying information with your flavor on it. And so when you think about how to price something, there's some things to consider. First off, you could do research and see what other people doing similar stuff are pricing it. If you have no idea what you should price it as, that's a way to kind of gather some data. If there's no one doing just what you're doing, you can look and find people who have a similar feel to what you feel like or what you want to feel like, see what they're doing. And also the amount of time and stuff, because that makes a difference, you know. Now, there are people who teach weekend workshops for $10,000. There are people who teach weekend workshops for $60. All of it exists. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just what fits you, what fits the clientele that you're aiming for. And I'll give you a couple of things I've learned about pricing. This is something that I still struggle with to this day, especially because what I teach is such a wide range of amounts of energy and focus and information. But you can definitely underprice stuff. I've learned this. You might be like, oh no, I want to make this available to everyone. But something happens psychologically that if you price it too low, people will think it's not good. People can think it's not worthwhile. And also, if you price it too low, they might not really show up. If you price it high enough that they have to think about it, maybe they have to spend a little time investing it, maybe they have to spend a little time planning how they're going to afford it, or they have to say no to something else so they can buy this, then it's more likely they're going to show up and put effort in. And again, that goes back to kind of what we were talking about before, that was whether or not you want this to just be something that people can have and do what they want, or whether you feel like it's important for you that they really commit something of themselves to it, which is just up to you. You might not care, and that's fine. It's just what kind of energetic exchange you're wanting and needing and feeling balanced in. Also, you can definitely overprice things, and then you can have people not able to get it, who you might want to be able to get it. But it's hard to predict that, because we're definitely in a world where, depending on the country, depending on the city, depending on whatever, people make all kinds of different money or have all kinds of different monies, and it's hard to predict. So the thing that I've found is, if I always go a little above what I would probably automatically do, like a little more, just a little more, then it's usually right. It's usually a thing that people like take it seriously, think that it's worth something. Because also what's happened when I've priced stuff too low is that I would attract super vampy people, because especially on the internet, people are so used to getting everything for free. And with me, I give away so much stuff. It's part of my spiritual practice. I'm like, okay, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. But then sometimes in the past, that's kicked me in the end, because people are so used to just getting stuff for free from me that they didn't make the distinction between, okay, I can just take and take and take and take from her, or this is a packet of information I'm buying, not her energy. Does that make sense? So, and also think about what you would pay for it. Think about maybe in real life, like say Candy, for years, like what would people pay for a healing session? And then the fact that what they're getting from you in this course is essentially a healing session. Also adjusting for the fact that they don't have to leave their house. They don't have to plan it in like they would, go to a city and park and all these things, which would adjust it. Also, it's in the convenience of their home, which would adjust it. However, on the other hand, you also don't have to pay overhead to rent a space. You also don't have to travel. So this is just stuff depending. And also, since we all live in different spots where the cost of living is different, you want it to be worth your time. The whole point of this is to make something that you can be proud of, and that benefits the world. And you are making something that is valuable. And if people don't want it, they don't have to buy it. And if they want to do a bunch of research just like you did, they can do that for free, probably. They can go online, they can go to libraries, they can ask people for advice, So it's okay to make money off your work. And you should. The energetic exchange is a real thing. So thinking about pricing it, usually what I think about is how much time are they dedicating? How much time am I dedicating? What feels fair to me? And you can feel it out. Some of my courses are $55, some of them are $300. And it just depends on like what they're getting, It's like you go to the grocery store and it's a range, and that it's okay to have a range, and it's okay to have a range in your work. And it's always okay to change your mind. I found that for a while, I was pricing my stuff in a certain way that was way lower than people doing anything similar to people. I mean, like 6 times lower. But that meant that I was attracting this certain population of people who only valued themselves to a certain level. They wouldn't actually put the time in to do the work. They wanted to buy my course and kind of have me infuse them with energy, and then them not do anything, which started to drive me crazy and drain me out. So I had to ramp up the prices a little, and some people didn't like it. But probably the people didn't like it were the ones who were vamping me to begin with. So, I mean, that's just like, notes from experience that you can always shift it. And also, it's kind of one of those funny little mind things, but you can also price it at a certain thing, even if it's a little higher than you might normally do, and then just do sales sometimes, like a couple times throughout the year. Be like, okay, I'm cutting this down by a quarter or half or whatever, just for this month or whatever. But if you do too many sales, then they won't get it at the normal price. You want a sale to be a special thing, not something that is always going on. So how about, rather than trying to decide upon the price of your class, when I hit the 2-minute mark, why don't you just brainstorm a little about how this like makes you feel, what's coming to mind, because you might need to do a little research for this one afterward. But it's good to at least breach the subject in your mind. So I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 2, and you guys just go for it, whatever feels comfy. All right, there's our timer. So what came up for you guys while you were thinking about pricing? Anything you want to share or ask or etc.?
I was gonna say, like, at least in regards to my art, maybe the past, or maybe just this year. I'm not sure when I kind of came up with like this phrase for myself. Because art is such a funny thing. Like you said, I mean, you can sell art for tens of thousands of dollars or like millionaire, you know, I don't know. There's just such a range, you know, but then there's artists, you know, that want to make art and they might make a beautiful piece and it's like $25, you know, you come up with something really low. But I decided a while ago that I want for like a feeling that I have like whatever it is, whether it's a project someone's asking me to do, like they're like, I really want X, Y, and Z, and it's something random, like, or if it's something that I made on my own and I'm trying to sell it, I don't want to feel bitter, like is my goal. You know what I mean? Like if I give it away, because I have that with art, especially, it seems like family and friends, they expect it free, and maybe that's everything, but they expect it for free, and they expect it. I've even had someone tell me before, like, well, you're not going to really make me pay, you know, $400 for a painting. And I'm like, and she was the sweetest person ever, but I'm like, I guess I'm not, like, am I, you know, but
if it's not worth it, don't buy it, friend.
Yeah. And like, so I have priced some things much higher if they're things that people come to me that I really either don't want to do, or like, if I'm going to do it, it better be like, again, not make me bitter and not make me feel like I'm being taken advantage of in some way. So like whatever number that is, like, I'm just going to go with it. And if it doesn't sell because of it, like, it's better than me being bitter about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I have definitely experienced that in my work, especially when I would try to make it available to everyone. I remember in the beginning, I was like, I want to be the Walmart of spirituality. I want to be able to I want everyone to be able, and that did not work very well. I had the best intentions, but in the end, it wasn't right. It was not healthy, the way that it panned out, which is not what I thought was going to happen when I said it, you know. But I will say that, oh shoot, where was I going with that? Boom, 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 boom. There was something. Oh no, my thoughts are fleeing. Oh well, maybe it'll come back. Okay, here it is. So I was talking to an economist, and she had, when she was in school for economy, she got like a master's or something in economics. And she was telling about this new theory, an economic theory that's a step above the win-win, because what you want is the win-win. You want to feel like, I always want to feel like I get paid well for my work, and I want to feel like the people who buy my work feel like they get a good deal. Like, I feel like there's a sweet spot in there that we can find. But also, you know, you set the value. Why do Calvin Klein jeans cost whatever they cost when they cost whatever they cost to make? Because they set the value. They say, this is how much this costs. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Whatever. Someone else will. No big deal. but there's this new economic theory, and I don't know what it's called, but it's when not only is it a win-win from person A and person B, because what economics used to be was there's this finite amount of money. If you want a lot, someone else is getting less. But as we know, as I think you guys all know, it's not actually how the world works. There's always more of a resource because we live in a plastic universe. So the idea is to not only have the win-win, so one person feels like they're getting what is a clean energy, good energy, they feel abundant. Another person feels abundant because they feel like they paid a fair price for something that they can respect. But then that also goes up again and beneficially impacts the whole place. So for instance, if you take the economics of a city, it would be bringing in some kind of business that provides a useful service that the people also like, that then benefits the whole city. Through somehow adding culture or health or green whatever or tourism or what, you see what I'm saying? So not only is it good for you, not only is it good for your client or customer, but it's good for the whole place. And that also is something that people will feel in your work. And if they have a problem, they can find someone who they jive better with. You know, I feel like, unless it's something that keeps coming to you over and over and over from different sources, I feel like you do not have to change your work because of feedback. It's okay for them to go elsewhere. Now, like I said, if it's something that your universe keeps kind of showing you, maybe you should look at it. Or if it like triggers you up, there's something about that you need to look at. It might not be what they're saying, but something around the back end, you know? So anything else y'all want to chat about pricing? Okay, great. So our final point here, and this is something that could have a whole thing all on its own. It's something that most of us have a big challenge, an energetic block. Candy, you can probably do a whole thing on this, actually. Feel free if you ever want to. Open source. Marketing. And I don't know if you guys saw one of my Insta stories about this workshop, but it was, there's so much blocks about marketing. Because straight up, a lot of marketing feels yucky. Mm-hmm. I've even had friends of mine who I really like and who I really respect their work, but every time I scroll by their stuff on Facebook, I'm like, ugh, I can't. Like, and I'm not judging them as a person. They make a good living, so some people like it. But if it's got that like plastic thing on it, I'm like, I don't know. Like, but that's me personally and my issues. So that's fine theoretically, but the whole point is that marketing is not convincing someone who doesn't want your product to want it, at least not in the paradigm that I believe in. Marketing is not, you know, and if you look at the television and even the commercials on YouTube or wherever, it's usually like, especially like, I don't know, I don't want to drop any companies, but like clothing companies and stuff like that. It's like, you should want this, you know, like you didn't even necessarily know that this existed, but now that you do, you should want it. That I think is a way that we're contributing to the illness of the planet, right? But what you want your marketing to do is people who are sitting there, and I guarantee you, if there's anything you walk away from this with, not only for this work, but for your life and your creative life, it's that if you feel the call to make something, that means there is somebody out there who is freaking praying for it, who needs it. It's not just about you. It's about a greater thing. When one finger itches, another finger comes to scratch it. If someone's praying to God, the greater consciousness, because they need something, they might not be the one to make it. You might be the one to make it for some reason you didn't know, and then you make it and you're answering somebody's prayers. Meanwhile, this whole finger is traveling over here to scratch this other finger like, what am I doing? I don't even know, because the finger doesn't know, your brain does. You see what I'm saying? And so if you with marketing, all you're doing is giving the people who are looking for you the way to find you, giving the people who need what you're doing, who want what you're doing. And you know, sometimes they might not know they want it. For instance, the Ascended Adornment I make, right? The jewelry I make, which is just like kind of a side thing that I do to help pay my bills while the other stuff comes and goes.
It's
but
4:00.
Okay, I like that. It's keeping us on task. We're almost done. But sometimes, because I do infuse the energy, infuse these bracelets with like chi and prana and stuff like that. So sometimes people might be like, ooh, I'm not necessarily even into crystal bracelets, but I want one of those. So it's not like it's bad to introduce people to a new thing. That's fine. But there are a lot of marketing tactics in the greater world, and even sometimes in the spiritual community, that's like, your life's not going to be as good as if you don't do this. You're going to keep struggling with this and this and this if you don't do this. There's a very common marketing thing. And you know what? It's true. It works because it works. And it's that you find the problem that people are having and then you solve it. And that's great. That's fine. Like Maria, the thing that you're talking about, you might be helping usher people out of eating disorders. Yes. Right? Like that's wonderful. It can also be done the negative way though, which is, and you build up the problem and you build it up and you build it up. I mean, you can just feel that that's not right. Like you can feel, and I don't think any of you guys would necessarily be doing that. But the reason I'm even bringing it up at all is to say that there's a reason why we're freaked out about marketing. It's because stuff like that happens and stuff like that is prevalent and maybe even predominantly what's going on in the marketing world, because we're all still very new. This is a new world. Like we don't know how it works. We're kind of clunky and awkward as we go through. So as we evolve it and make it more and more. So when you are marketing, what it is letting the people who are looking for you find you, showing them how to find you. And it's also showing what your product is. It's like, okay, do you want to take this class from me? This is what it is. It's the stuff we talked about before, however many live calls, however many videos, this is what you will get in the end of it. That's really, really important. And it's really important that you're honest with yourself about that. I've definitely heard of people taking courses where they thought they were going to get one thing and they didn't get it. Now, if they think they're going to get one thing and they get it and they get all this other stuff too, great. But if they think they're going to get one thing and they don't get it, then they're likely to walk away feeling a little bitter or a little unsatisfied. And that ends up coming back around energetically to you. So you want people to walk away feeling as satisfied as they can. Now, some people are just going to have issues sometimes. That's just part of the world. Sometimes people are going to not like you. Sometimes people are going to be mad at you. You can't make everybody happy. But what you can do is make sure that you're in your integrity. And okay. So another thing about marketing. So you're helping the people who want to find you. And then also, sometimes it can be a challenge to keep marketing, like keep on going with reminding people that this is coming up. Because I'm sure you guys have even seen sometimes people, especially on social media, who are also selling things, it's a sweet spot between how much authentic sharing am I doing and community am I doing versus how much am I trying to sell this product. And sometimes people can sway a little bit, and maybe every time you see something come up on your feed from them for a while, you're like, okay, I don't want to buy your shit, man. Like I want to just be your friend, whatever. And so it's that sweet spot. The way I feel like a loophole, like a hack here, is back to the beginning of this. If it's something that you really love and it's something that you geek out about, you could make it part of your practice to geek out about this for a couple minutes every day or every other day or every few days. And then when you get some cool epiphany, or when you come to some conclusion, or when you find something interesting out or want to share something, you can share it. And then at the end be like, oh yeah, and if you like that, this course that's on that subject is offered here. It's definitely something that I really believe in, that everything I ever put on the internet or on Instagram or wherever it may be gives some kind of value. So it's never just an ad. It can be an ad as long as it also gives something. And I think that too, it's contributing to the health or the non-health of the internet beast, right? Like the consciousness of it all. No fluff. So but if this is something that you really believe in, it should be easy for you. And even you can go through the course and give little secrets and be like, this is a hack, this is a thing. And if you like it and other ones are in the course. The thing that you want to make sure you don't do, I don't think any of you will do this, but just to have it in your head, is to make sure that you give the full effect. Make sure that you don't do a tease. That's something that a lot of people do. I personally don't like it, and so I'm not going to tell you to do it. It's if you want to give them a packet of information, give it to them. Don't be like, hey, I'm going to tell you how to do this, and then not tell them, but you should come take the course. You know what I mean? And that's something that's very common in marketing, especially internet marketing. Like there's this, so speaking of video and stuff, there's a psychological thing that happens to people when they look at you for a certain amount of time. If they look at you for like over 10 minutes or something, they'll start to like you, probably, at least a little bit. It's just the way the brain works with familiarity. So there are I see definitely a lot of like marketing videos on YouTube trying to sell some kind of service or coaching program or something that is the person saying, I'm going to teach you 3 ways to blah, blah, blah. And then you start watching the video because you want to learn those 3 ways. and they start talking about completely other stuff. And then finally, when about 8, 9, 10 minutes comes around, then they'll maybe give you one of them, but then the other ones will be like, if you want to know, go check out my seminar. And I find that so frustrating and kind of shoddy integrity. I don't like it. And that's the thing about what I hope that this is doing, is that what I hope that what you guys end up making is something that's going to bring a deeper level of integrity to what's going on, because it needs it, and granted, we're new, no judgy, just saying that it could use it. And depth is what you get as you grow and as you mature and as you grow up and find your place in the world. So the idea about marketing is you're letting people find you who are looking for you. You're telling people what they're getting. And also, I've had actually pretty good success, which is, for instance, what this workshop is actually, because after this workshop, you can totally go and do this all on your own. But I am teaching a class, which is, I'll take you through it step by step, a little bit more in depth. But you don't have to buy it. You know what I mean? It's like you could do it. So one thing that I have found that worked is just, when people go to the webpage or go to the YouTube video, whatever it is, you just tell them what you're going to teach them. They're like, okay, this is what I'm going to teach you. And just tell them. And you can even give it to them. And then it's like, if you want to learn with me more, you can come to the thing. You can buy the product or the service or whatever. And all that's pretty clean. And, I find that the more that you just open up and be vulnerable like that and be clear like that, the more that the people who come to you are really, truly aligned with you. Like if you can take off the masks. Yeah. So I'll set the clock for a couple of minutes. And what I would love for you guys to wax on is, if you think back on all the stuff that we've written and talked about, and you also think about your natural talents and however you like to connect, just kind of brainstorm a minute about how you can connect in such a way that you're both sharing your work and also giving of your authentic self in a way that creates community. Because I think that's the future of this internet thing. Like, we do want actual community here. It's virtual, so it's different. But the way that we make it actual community is by being vulnerable and honest. So how you can take what you uniquely are, because people want to get it from you. They can get it from anyone, but if they get it from you, they want it from you. So be proud of your own flavor and be authentic with it, because authenticity is gold. So just kind of brainstorm on that. So I'll set the clock for 2. And here we go. All right, there we are. Okay, so thoughts, questions, comments, process?
I was going to share, I know I had told you this, my metaphor, I told you a little while back that I had come into a community of people that were life coaches, and I guess lots of their businesses were sort of spiritually based, but there was like an energy there that I was very like turned off by and trying to like figure out. And the analogy I came up with is like a lot of the people I had been around were kind of like on a cliff, and they had like fishing rods and they had like really sparkly tackle, and they were just out there just like fishing for all the fish, like all the time, just like aggressively attacking the water and whatever. And then I felt like Karis's energy was very like, okay, I'm in my tent over here in the woods, and like I have some crystals for sale, and like here's a sign that says eggs for 35 cents, or, you know, it was just like,
I love that.
this is what I have, like, you can find me, you know. And I felt like discovering that contrast for myself was very, I don't know if I would have like gotten it without like experiencing it kind of. And so I just wrote down, I did write down eggs for 35 cents because it is kind of just like, okay, yeah, they've got eggs. All right. You know?
If I want them, I can get them. Like,
right. But also like, I think, you know, no sign up now. Like, I think some of the lingo that's very popular, especially in like Facebook posts that I see, even for things like the makeup that people sell and like the larger companies that people get involved in, I think the sense of urgency, you know, they translate that with different lingo, like do it now, or there's a countdown, or, you know, all of that like anxiety creating lingo. And so I just kind of wrote that down to like remind myself to not like go that route. Cause I think, like you said, that's like the old paradigm of like, ugh, the urgency, like there's not going to be any more eggs or whatever. You know?
Yeah. And thank you for that. Cause it's true. And sometimes there is a natural urge. So for instance, like with this, right? People who didn't sign up on time didn't get the live event. They'll get the recording event, but the live events are kind of cooler because you get like individual stuff. So, or like when I make jewelry, it's like, there's only 10 of them. Like, I'm not lying. There is actually only 10. Like,
Right.
So it's a real thing. And
Right.
and since that tends to work, people will try to manufacture it. But again, and also just a note to end on with the marketing is that, again, like we were saying before, Maria, when you were talking about like how you can be shy on camera, we're like, okay, well, when you feel shy or insecure, to not make it about the package, which is you, make it about the info. Again, here, marketing is, if this is a subject that you love, and if you have done your time and worked it out, and you know it's going to give them the thing that you say it's going to give them, right? That's all. It only has to give them the thing you say it's going to give them. It doesn't have to give them everything in the world. It just has to give them that. You can be proud of it, and you should be proud of it. And you being proud of your work does not mean that you think you're better than anyone. It doesn't mean that you are conceited. It does not mean that you're full of yourself. You should feel proud of your work if it's good work. And also thinking from the other perspective of someone who is a customer sometimes, would you go to a doctor who's like, I mean, this might work, you know? Like you want to work with people who are solid. And if this is something you've geeked out about for a while, if it's something that you feel confident in for yourself, you can be confident that you can transmit this information. And if you're continually improving it, all the more reason. Go ahead and be confident. Be proud of what you do. Anybody who has a problem with that just has a problem with their own confidence. It's not real. And 'tis better. I know I, for one, want to live in a world full of badasses doing awesome things. It is way less interesting for me to sit in a circle and talk about how we don't like ourselves than it is for me to talk about how cool the world is and the cool stuff that we're coming up with. There's a time and a place for everything. And sometimes we need to process, and sometimes we need to get stuff out and get reflections from each other. And we have wounds and we have stuff. But generally, I think that if we want to be creating this beautiful thing, then it's better to focus on how we are making something that we think will help, making something that we think is a valuable thing. And again, it's not about us. It's about the vibe that we're bringing. It's about the gift that we're giving through this work. It's about this thing that will now be available to the public because of what you're doing that wasn't available before, not in the way that you're doing it. And you can be proud of it. And that's good marketing right there. That's, you know, when you see something, I'm not really susceptible to marketing like at all, because I'm just kind of a weirdo and I do my research. And so whenever an ad comes up on YouTube or whatever for something that I would never buy, I'm like, dude, you're barking up the wrong tree. Like, send me an ad about spirulina or, you know, coconut oil, and maybe I'll pay attention. But there are certain things that I do watch ads for, and it's when people love their product. It's when people truly love their product. You can feel it. When they like it, when they're proud of it, and when they're proud that other people love it, you know, and that feels good. That marketing is good. That means when you get the product, whether it be an informational product or an actual thing, you then feel like you're part of a tribe. You then feel like you're part of a clan, people who like this thing and who interact on a way that's valuable and authentic. And that's a good feeling. And that's something that marketing can do, especially in this tech age where we're not really that connected. We can create these communities around something that's useful and real, and we can be proud of it, and then know that you're actually giving these other people a service too, because everybody wants to feel connected, and it's getting harder, you know? Cool. So any questions? We've been through our 8 points. You guys have the full download on how to make an online class or workshop or whatever. Any thoughts? Wow, fantastic. Ooh, okay, great. Well, okay, so I will send you guys this recording, and those of you getting it later obviously already have it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. We do have a live chat tomorrow, Monday night at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, which is 8:30 p.m. Eastern. As soon as this renders and everything, and I send you the email with this recording, I'll also send you the link. And so you don't have to come to the call tomorrow night, but it's an option if you want to. It's just going to be our Q&A for everyone else who got it before the cutoff date for when we recorded it, but who didn't make it to the recording or who couldn't fit into the recording. Okay, so thank you guys so much for being here. Let's do a quick little moment of mindfulness to close this down and to good at the end it. All right. So getting nice and comfy, realizing we've been sitting in chairs for a while, so maybe rolling your neck around or your hips around or whatever, breathing deeply. And now asking that all this information that we got come into our minds, come into our bodies, into our hearts, down through our energetic system, weaving itself in a way that will help to make us implements of a greater level of cohesiveness, of a greater level of knowledge and wisdom, shared experience, blessed community, and beneficial interaction, not only for ourselves, not only for whoever happens to buy our product, but for anyone we touch, whether it be personally or professionally, or even just passing by on the street. The more we can all know our worth, and the more that we can all create things that make the world a better place, the more beautiful our world becomes. And we can heal people by not even realizing it, just by shining our light. So may you guys walk away with a greater sense of that. And thank you so much for being here. This has been a pleasure and an honor to help steward for you. Just building up energies of love, gratitude, connection, cohesiveness. Take a deep breath in to cement it. And release.
I'm gonna go with you. I'm done.
Oh.
Perfect. I love that. Okay, so if I were you, I would sit on this for a day or two without necessarily coming back, and then look at it again later. Let your brain percolate, let it get into your subconscious, and then come back. And y'all know how to reach me if you have any questions or anything. So thank you so much.
Okay.
You guys so much love. Have a beautiful
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
Good to meet
Bye.
you. All right. Bye-bye.